And it's right next to Brown. And that's two, Commissioner High.
Ready and progress.
All right, we're ready?
I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Good evening, welcome everybody for this warm day. It's Wednesday, July 10th. It's 5:30 p.m. This is a concert, Airport Commission special meeting because we're doing this a couple days early. And we appreciate all your flexibility in changing those dates. So, honey, we call the meeting to order and we're going to pledge of allegiance. Sam, what do you think? Is your first to collect? Can you lead us with this?
I can do that.
Let's do it. Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And you already.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is the agenda posted?
Yes, the agenda has
Your
been
roll
posted.
call, please.
For our commissioners on Zoom, please unmute your mic at this time. And for our new commissioners, please say here when your name is called. Commissioners Banks,
Here.
Berryman,
Here.
Burke,
Here.
Caldwell,
Here.
Corcoran,
Here.
Delgado, Evans Steiner, is that how you say it? And Feltman. Oh, he just joined, sorry, 1 second, let me just promote him real quick. Feltman on Zoom, can you please unmute your mic?
Hi,
Fong,
Here.
Hedrick,
here.
Keel,
Here.
Martin,
Here.
McDermott, here, Park, Hyde,
Here.
Wise,
Here.
Wiseman,
Here.
and Young.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
have a quorum.
Thank you all, appreciate that. And welcome all that are new. We'll talk more about that like when it's related here. We're looking at Executive 3, who's our city clerk, and she's going to lead the process for nominating new officers for our commission. Brenda will.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that we do have a quorum present for this nomination for chair and vice chair. Nominations are now in order for the office of chair. Do we have any nominations for the chair? Evan Corcoran.
I'll second.
Second for the nominations. Are there any further nominations for the office of chair?
Is there anyone on Zoom?
Seeing none without objection, nominations are closed. And I will at this time take those that are in favor of Mr. Kevin Corcoran. With him being the only nominee, then we'll presume that he will be your chair on board. Just following my script here. He has received in the unanimous with no opposed and no oppositions for him. Do we have a nominations to accept the election for the co-chair, vice chair?
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
We have a nomination from Commissioner McDermott for Commissioner Burke. Commissioner Feldman, do you have a nomination?
Same nomination, second.
Thank you.
So we'll consider the nomination. Are there any other nominations for a co-chair? Todd Burke is the only sole nominee, so we'll consider him as your co-chair at this time. Are there any other questions?
Anyone on Zoom? Any other commissioners on Zoom that would like to make a nomination?
We'll consider it closed, and then Todd Burke will be your co-chair. Kevin Corcoran will be your chair for the coming year. All right. Anything else?
Thank you so much.
thank you all. Humbled by your support, thrilled to have Todd by my side. We've got lots to do. Anxious to part of the body. So thank you so much for your support, it means a lot. All right, we have an agenda today. Do any changes need to be made to the agenda?
We'll go ahead and.
Just for you accept this our agenda tonight. If there's no changes to the agenda, we're gonna do a roll call for accepting the agenda.
Motion to accept the agenda?
So we second. Roll call?
Thank you. Roll call, Commissioners Banks,
Yes.
Berryman,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
and we have Corbett,
Yes.
Delgado. Absent. Evan Steiner,
Yes.
Feldman,
Yes.
Fong,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Park. Just want to verify Park is absent.
Yes, she's absent, she's not.
Pye,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
motion accepted.
Sounds good. Do we have any public comments on that? Anybody registered on Zoom?
There's no public comment scheduled. Is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to make a public comment at this time? Please raise your virtual Zoom hand. No public comments. Anybody in the room that wishes to make a public comment? No public comment.
Let's go the approval meeting of our minutes from February 21st. If you had a chance to look at the minutes and review the minutes, those of you who are new, as long as you've read the minutes, you can vote. Do we need a motion or do we ready?
We just, you did state the portion of, the people who are in attendance, that are new, that were basically not present at the February 21st meeting, commission meeting. You can make a vote, but the last part, Christina?
So it's not a requirement for you to be in the meeting to make a vote to approve the minutes. You still can vote yes, no, or abstain. It's completely up to you how you'd like to vote, but you can vote if you read the minutes.
So I need a motion to approve. I will move. One second. Second. Got it. Vote please.
Commissioners Banks,
Yes.
Berryman,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Evan Steiner,
Yes.
Feldman,
Yes.
Fong,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Pye,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Wiseman, Young.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is an exciting part of our meeting when we bring on new commissioners. Each commissioner a couple minutes to talk a little about their background, where they're from, what area they're representing, and tell a little bit about themselves. And if I can, we'll start with you, Sam. Welcome.
Thank you, Kevin, I appreciate that. My name is Samantha McDermott. Feel free to please call me Sam. It's a real honor to be here, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you this year. 5-year resident of Palm Springs, moved here from Orange County and have been here full time for the last 5 years. I am a co-owner of a 22-room hotel in Palm Springs and also an FAA certified private pilot. 250 hours in Accesso 172 SP. So I'm hoping to continue to graduate and continue to move forward on that. And just really looking forward to contributing to the success of the group. Thank you.
Welcome, Sam. Glad you're here. Representing La Quinta. Jeff or Jeffrey?
I go by you, Jeff.
Jeff. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jeff. I've been a resident of La Quinta for about 16 years now. I retired 2022 as the Director of Finance for the Coachella Valley Water District. Before that, I was here at the city of Palm Springs as the director of finance and treasurer from 2008 to 2018. And so it's kind of this first time I've been back in this room since I retired, but I've been to well over 100 commission meetings. It's kind of funny, but sitting on the staff side, giving financial reports. So a lot less pressure on me now. Thank you, Brett.
Don't speak too soon. What's going on? Well, welcome back. I'm thrilled to be here. Let's go to Zoom and say hi to Brian. Brian, you want to introduce yourself, please?
I will. Thank you, Kevin. Just so you know, I'm having a little bit of a connection problem at times. So if I kind of freeze or something, that's why. Yeah, Brian Ebensteiner. I represent Palm Springs. We've had a house in Palm Springs since 2012 and moved there full time in 2021. I'm retired. I guess my relevant experience for the Airport Commission is spending 17 years in the airline industry. I worked for Delta and Northwest prior to the merger. I directed the market planning and fleet planning for the domestic system for them. And later on, I took over and managed the regional flying for them. So I'm very excited to be part of the Airport Commission and look to work with all of you to continue improving and growing the Palm Springs Airport for the benefit of the entire Coachella Valley. So I'm happy to be aboard.
Welcome, Brian. We appreciate you here. Thank you so much. I'm excited that a former commissioner that many of us have worked with for years is also being appointed, and we're thrilled to have him back with us. Ken Hendrick, want to say hello?
Hi, and I'm sorry I couldn't be with you today. I'm Ken Hedrick. I'm a retired public finance investment banker. I was a banker for 35 years and worked on numerous airport projects, among other things. I'm a Palm Springs resident. I served on the commission for 6 years. And during my off period, I did some advisory work with the planning group that's working on the expansion of the airport. And in addition to all that, I'm president of 29-PSP, which is a service that provides transportation for Marines between PSP and the base at 29 Palms. And we work with the airport, the USO, and the base. And even though we've only been in operational since Memorial Day, we've already transported over 400 Marines, saving $1.6 million in cab and transportation fare for the Marines. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. The city of Cathedral City has appointed Christian Samlaska, if I'm saying that right. He can't join us Sundays on a business trip, so he'll be joining us at our September meeting. We'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself at that time. We have a new executive administrative assistant. Andrew, want to say hello?
Hello, my name is Andrew Pond. Within my first week and a half here, I'm happy to be here and meet all of you. This is my first time in this city government environment. I came hired previously. I worked in higher education for 15 years. I was previously the director of admissions for the University of Massachusetts Global, which before that was Brandon, which before that was Chapman University College. So we've been through a couple of name changes and identities, but throughout that was in the same role. Happy to be here. Happy to meet all of you and look forward to working with all of you.
Welcome, Andrew. And he'll be taking over the helm hopefully by September once we get welcome, pleasure. Okay, any other comments before we move? We're okay with this? Okay. Let's go to item 9A. We have a big agenda tonight. Let's jump right in. It's the Palm Springs Air Museum lease extension. Victoria.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, commissioners. The item before you this evening is a request for action to recommend to the City Council the approval of a 10-year lease extension and a consumer price index increase for the fees with the Palm Springs Air Museum at the Palm Springs International Airport. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a presentation up here. It looks like I did revise it a little bit, Fred, but it's still your same content. So Fred Bell, he is the general manager of the Palm Springs Air Museum. He's with us here tonight. He's gonna do some color commentary and fill in where I am not providing as much detail as he can. So let me share my screen here and this would be it. Let me see, presentation. Let's see, presentation. Hopefully, yep, there we go. All right, so.
I could also just say, this is Mr. Fred Bell. He runs the Airport Museum. He's with us tonight as well to provide color commentary, on some other comments. Fred Bell, go ahead.
All right, so just to give you some history on the Palm Springs Air Museum, so the Palm Springs Air Museum and the airport entered into a lease November 1995. So at the signing of that lease, it was agreed upon that they were going to do about $5 million of improvements. So the facilities that you see there today are some of those improvements that you see that was originally negotiated when we did the initial term of the lease. At that time of the lease, there were improvements like a 50,000 square foot hangar, a perimeter fencing, vehicle parking, aircraft for the apron, public parking, utility installation, street improvements, landscaping, and taxiway improvements. Then in 1998, there was an amendment that was done, and there was office space that was added in there for the Civil Air Patrol. In 2005, the City Council approved an amendment to the lease for about 4 acres of vacant land for overflow museum guest parking and construction of an educational hangar and educational facility and a hangar. In 2016, there was another amendment that was done to the lease where the Palm Springs Air Museum was going to be constructing a 20,000 square foot hangar for an exhibit and display hall, and then an 8,100 square foot restaurant, aircraft tarmac expansion for aircraft parking, and then a retention basin along with the public road access. During that time, the City Council also had approved a $55,000 rent abatement for the tarmac project, and then a $150,000 rent abatement for the public street improvements and retention basin project. Then amendment number 4 through 8 included the leasing of a 10,000 square foot hangar to store aircraft on the west side of the airport property. So this is just giving you a little bit of a history of all the things that have happened there at the Palm Springs Air Museum. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Fred so that he can talk through these slides here. Fred, just let me know next slide, and then I can move it for you.
Okay, I provided color commentary, like headset for everything. So the original concept of the Air Museum was 2 20,000 square foot hangars and a central entry throat into the facility, along with some improvements on the tarmac of the original facility. And then over time, and that was 15 aircraft. To give you context, those are all Bob Kahn's airplanes, who was the founder of the airplane, at the Air Museum. He's passed away. This is the kind of existing front of the building. To give you context, the entire site, the 17-acre site, was done under a master EIR with a master build-out. So the build-out of the facility was envisioned to be about 100,000 square feet. It was all done under a master EIR. And then what we've done over time is take down sections. As we expand, we take another section under the original EIR. So you understand how we got to where we got. At this point, the facility, the site plan I'm going to show you, the facility was built out at about 91,000 square feet. We have leased under a 5-year lease, 2.5 acres to the south. And on your master plan, you're contemplating 2 additional hangars, which is a rocket rocketry hangar with a 5,000 square foot classroom in it, and a mid-century modern hangar that is 13,000 feet that will house a lot of memorabilia that is tied to Palm Springs. There's a lot of aviation history in Palm Springs, and we're acquiring some of it. I showed you a picture tonight of some of that. So the next slide. Okay, so this is a new entry point, and we're going to stay behind the curb line, but the idea is that we're adding two 2,000 foot buildings for 4,000 feet total inside the existing curb line, and then remodeling another 4,000 feet inside the existing facility. The reason for the remodel is very straightforward. We started with 15 aircraft, we have 75 now. The interior of the building in 1996 was designed, the restroom and all of the amenities were designed for two 20,000 foot hangars, not everything else. We have other restrooms, but we've got to update, or that part of the facility is almost 30 years old. Next slide. Okay, so what we're talking about here, and I don't want to cut you off, but these are the existing buildings. There's the Miles expansion, the F-117, the B-17 expansion, and one of our classrooms. So the idea is, right now, people come through here, they come in primarily from this main part, they come through here, and there's a throat that leads into the building. With the attendance that we have now, essentially it just clogs up. The other problem is these restrooms here are too small to handle this, and when we add the expansion, we're going to double the restroom size. We're going to change the ingress, egress into the building to where there's one entry point here, and then when people leave the building, they will go out that way. So we're going to split the entry and exit so to reduce the pedestrian traffic. And then lastly, we're adding a 200-seat classroom. That's a dedicated classroom for kids. We do about 5,000 kids a year in the facility. That's all grant funded. We teach, math, science, humanities. All of those programs are provided to the kids at no charge. So transportation, their admission, their lunch, all of their materials, the school districts don't pay for anything. All they have to do is call us and ask us if we have space available, and they can come at no charge. We're one of the few facilities in the valley that does that, and that's part of what we believe is just reinvesting in the program. As Victoria was talking about, this portion here represents about, in 1996 dollars, about a $5 million investment, roughly. In total facilities on the site area, we have investment of over $21 million. And we're going to continue to see that climb. You guys, if you ever went away, will all own those facilities. And so Scott's over there going, yay, I can get all that hangar space. But we're constantly reinvesting in the facility. We put in Sirota Road over here, which we developed with Caltrans. The city basically said that's an absolute pain in the ass. You go deal with Caltrans, and that was the reason for the renovation and everything else. We carried the cost of that through COVID when we were shut down. So we didn't get any of that return on that investment for about 3 years, which was never envisioned. That was not how it was supposed to be, but we, in for a penny, in for a pound. Next slide. Okay, so everything that I talked about now, this is the east block facing east, right? So the building, you're looking west, if you're looking at the building, there's the entry throat, the exit, that's where you exit there. We're moving, the offices are here, they're gonna go out there. New entry point here, all the expanded restrooms, and then there's the classroom that I talked about. So a much bigger facility. By the way, we've been through planning on this, and these are like the hangars, prefab buildings. We don't stick build anything, so there'll be metal frame hangars, just like what we build everything else out of. And then there'll be pavers in here, pavers here, and then the monuments that are in here. One of them is moving out there, the fire rate, and then the other ones will be moved around the area. Next slide, please. I won't spend a lot of time on this because I've already covered it, but you can see there's the access, bathroom, classroom, dedicated exit, and the way out, and my office way out on the end. Next slide. Okay, give you an idea of the architecture. What we're trying to do is pick up some of the mid-century modern architecture in Palm Springs. These colonnades are from the design comes out of the Air Force Academy. If you've ever seen the chapel at the Air Force Academy, they're very similar, supposed to represent jet engine turbine blades, and they are freestanding. Someone keeps asking about that. So you see they come up and then they pull over. They're canvas, similar to your cover that you have out here, the same material. The idea is they provide shade, especially on when the sun comes up and, during the summer, there's just no shade out there. So these provide shade to the patrons. Next slide.
Oh, that's it.
I guess parking rates are here. Will we get money? Answer one thing. So we're grateful for the extension. It would be very helpful to us if we can get that done. It'll allow us to really get the full 20-year use out of the building, which is what we're focused on, get out of the improvements. And I'm here if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Thanks, Greg. Any other comments? Victoria? Are you ready to move?
I'm ready to move.
All right. So when was taking the motion, please?
So the motion is to recommend to the city council to approve a 10-year lease extension to get us through, or to get the Palm Springs Air Museum through to November 2045. Wait. Yes, November 2045, and a CPI increase. What that will be doing is increasing the rate from 25 cents per admission to 30 cents per admission. That will come to the airport, as well as the facility rental from 25 cents to 30 cents. And then from increasing the gross sales percentage from 3% to 3.43%.
Do you have a motion?
We just want to check if there's is there anybody in the room that wishes to make a public comment?
Sorry, public comment, anyone?
Is there anyone on Zoom that wishes to make a public comment? Please raise your virtual Zoom hand.
I think Commissioner Martin has a question.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. I had a couple of questions. First of all, can you clarify for me the lease? Is it just for the land, or does it include the lease of facilities built by the airport?
Fred, has the airport built any facilities, or has that been something that's
just a raw land lease? We build all the improvements, including all the offsites.
So are you saying that the land lease so the building that is currently sitting on there's a land lease?
Correct.
Okay.
This is a raw land lease. We build all of the facilities.
Okay.
Okay, great. And then the second question is just, given the historical terms and even the proposed terms, is the revenue that the airport generate, is that at essentially a market rate, or is it below market rate, above market rate? What's our sense on the economics and how they stack up to market?
Yeah, so thank you, Commissioner Martin, for asking the question. So CPI increase has not happened. This is going to be the first CPI increase that happened with the Palm Springs Air Museum since 1995. Historically, or at least the terms of the agreement state every 5 years, a CPI increase is supposed to happen. I can't speak on why that didn't happen in the past. That's why we're doing a CPI increase compared to prior year. And then we're proposing to continue on and do a CPI increase in 2025, and then every 5 years after that, according to what the lease agreement says. So as far as, and that is just based off of the CPI increases on the admission, gross sales, and facility rentals. Commissioner Martin, is that the only market rent that you're mentioning, or is there anything else like that you're considering?
I guess what knowing now that it's just land, a land lease, I just want to get a sense of if we're going to generate $50,000 a year, is that land rent actually on a market rate more than 50,000? Are we in effect subsidizing the museum through lower rent, or are they paying market rates for the rent?
And I can jump in on that too, because if you allow me.
Go ahead.
Commissioner, the city council did a finding that the museum has a cultural benefit to the community that offset the market rate, a market rate analysis. That's how they got to the original numbers. We have always had an understanding with the city that we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We don't make any money. Everything has to go back into the facility. So the city has always incented us to do two things. One, education, which we provide, as I said, at no cost, and to continue to expand the facility, which we've invested probably about $15 million further. We also are the largest, we're required to buy fuel and operations support from the airport. We are the largest user of 100 low lead fuel on the airport. We buy more fuel than anybody else. And so we're required to spend that money at the airport, and we do that as well. So the requirement that we spend money at the airport and then we reinvest in the property is the reason why the council made the finding originally that we would have an offset in the market rate.
And then Commissioner Martin, I will speak on the FAA grant assurances number 24. So that grant assurance just for the airport in general states that we have to have fees and rental structures that the airport sets. That we're the ones that are making it as self-sustaining as possible. So we have to make sure we're setting those rates. So like Commissioner Martin, like you're mentioning, is this at fair market value? Is the rent of the lease of the land at fair market value? And so that is one thing that we must impose not only onto the Air Museum, which is, like he mentioned, Mr. Bell mentioned, a not-for-profit company. However, we still have to go by FAA grant assurances. However, with that, the airport is still able to make exceptions, like Mr. Bell is stating, and working even with the city. So we do have that discretion as long as this is something for the public's good. So, and that's why we bring this to the airport commission to help us make those decisions. And then we take that to the city council to help make the decisions that this is how we want to proceed and move forward. There's always other recommendations that could be brought forward. However, this is what we're currently presenting today in front of you.
Okay, so so if I understood that means it's okay if we're below market rate for the Air Museum because of the public benefit it brings?
Yes, and because they are a not-for-profit, so they would be falling under an exception to the FAA rules.
Okay.
Contingent upon the approval of the recommendation of the commission going to the airport or going to the city council approving.
So it still goes to city council. Other questions? Brian?
Yeah, just looking at the numbers here, I was just kind of curious as to why, even with the rate increase, we were projecting for fiscal 25 of 36,000 of revenue, while in 23 and 22 it was like 44,000. Is that due to less programming? What exactly is the reason for the variance?
Can we take a look at that and get back to you?
Sure.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Commissioner Feltman?
Yeah, Fred, do you have general economic benefit to the city at large from the visitors to the Air Museum?
We generate roughly about $35 million in direct economic benefit to the city. That is in TOT. Our residents, we do internal surveys. Our residents stay 8 days. As an example, we're an add-on, so that's why the majority of our residents stay 8 days. Then we look at what the bed tax is, which we work with the CBD, which is predominantly that number. About 75% of our visitors are, out of the area. We're part of, us and the tram are the two primary visitation areas. But it's about $30 million. We just updated it 2 years ago. We do a visitor intercept survey every 2 years. But it was about 28 and a half, and we think it's about 30. The market after COVID jumped up quite a bit. And I think anybody who's in hospitality knows that, and we're seeing a little bit of a correction. But I think that number is pretty accurate.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to state that it's just incredibly important to the tourism economy that we have vibrant destinations like the Air Museum, and Fred mentioned the tramway. I mean, this throws off a huge amount of revenue in other residual benefits to the hospitality economy, which also, of course, impacts the residents as well. So strongly support.
That it also is a phenomenal benefit for local families, because in the summer there really aren't that many activities that you can do with. This is one of the ones. And it's really awesome. Very much.
Thanks, Kevin. Anyone else here or on Zoom?
No one from the public is on Zoom. Anybody in the room that wishes to make a public comment? No public comment.
We're good. So I think we can move to a motion. So moved and second. Roll call, please.
Sure. Commissioners Banks,
Yes.
Berryman,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Evan Steiner,
Yes.
Feltman,
Yes.
Baum,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Martin,
No.
McDermott,
Yes.
Ty,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Fred, thanks for all you do. And doing Kevin Thomas and others. It's a real asset to our community, and anytime we can help you guys, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Have a evening. Thank you. All right, we're going to 9B. It's the amendment number 2, an amendment to the meeting and hunt contract. Jeremy, you're gonna do this with Ryan, please?
Sure, yes. So this is regarding our current airport master plan. And we've been going back and forth with Mead and Hunt to produce a amendment to address some of the city council requests. So I'm gonna let Ryan take the lead here. Ryan, you on?
I am on. Thank you, Jeremy, and good evening, commissioners. For those of you I haven't met, as Jeremy said, my name is Ryan Hayes. I'm with Mead and Hunt. We are the prime consultant leading a team of consultants preparing the comprehensive airport master plan for the airport. Just a quick reminder, this is a 20-year master plan, so we're taking a 20-year look into the future and recommending development and facilities needed to accommodate 20 years of projected demand at the airport. So for those of you who are new to the commission, I would invite you to spend some time on our project website. So that website address is, let me make sure I get it right here. It's www.palmspringsairportmasterplan.com. So that website has all of our draft master plan chapters that have been prepared to date. There's also frequently asked questions and some schedule information available for you to get up to speed. As Jeremy mentioned, we made a recommendation to the city council a couple of months ago. They approved the master plan concept with one exception. The city council is not sold on where the rental car facility, the proposed rental car facility, should be sited or located. So the majority of the work on this amendment is going to be looking at some additional analysis of two rental car facility locations. One immediately north of the terminal and basically attached to the future terminal. And a second location adjacent to Kirk Douglas Way, basically in between the property line and Kirk Douglas Way to the south, that would require shuttling of passengers to and from the terminal. The city council's primary concerns were they basically had two primary concerns. The first concern was the visual aesthetic impacts of a multi-story parking deck for the rental cars. The second concern is primarily related to traffic and the potential traffic impacts of rental car activity in and out of the facility, and the impacts to the El Cielo and the adjacent intersections. So in this amendment, we're going to be doing some additional renderings of both facilities to show what they look like, both from the ground view and from the kind of a bird's eye view. We're also going to be doing some additional traffic analysis on El Cielo and Ramon and Kirk Douglas. We're also going to be looking at some additional drawings that showed much more detail than our current drawings show in terms of ingress and egress into and out of the rental car facilities. So hopefully, with all of that additional analysis, the intent is to make another recommendation to the commission in the fall, and then eventually another recommendation to city council. So that's the Cliff Notes version. There's about a 10-page staff report in your packet that hopefully provides enough detail, but I'm here to answer questions and happy to take questions at this time.
Commissioner,
what's the additional money you're looking for?
It's 376,340.
Comments?
So that we're gonna have two locations for rental facilities. Did I hear that correct?
That we're gonna analyze, yeah. We're gonna dive in a little bit deeper in the two separate locations.
And really, the city council, they're the ones that said we need to do this, right?
They've asked for further analysis. If I may, Ryan, the debate is, we started at 6 stories right outside the baggage claim here. We all said, way too big, can we do something else? We buried 1 story for $1 million. And then we said we buried another 2 stories, and that's one of the things we're looking into. So it would be a 3-story building, which we think would mitigate some of the objections on that. At the same time, it's been proposed to look at the south side of the property and what would it look like there. And folks who have concern about sustainability, because we then have shuttle buses, other issues, those things need to be explored as well. There's a strong feeling that people want to maintain the ease of what we presently have, but how much would it cost to bury it so it wouldn't look like this great big huge deal? The other thought is, people are saying absolutely not, protect the views, protect all of that, put it down south, then everybody would be taking buses, shuttle buses in. I can tell you something, Ryan, maybe a little bit out of school here. When we first started to meet on the ad hoc long range plan, Ken made a proposal that at the time we thought was pretty outrageous, but maybe something we think about. Ken said, if we put it on the south side, why don't we just bury tunnels and just with walkways, bring people from the south side underneath it, up to check-in, and then up to baggage claim. You know, when we look at the cost and location, another reason why we're gonna spend $300,000 to ask more questions about this. You know, maybe we revisit some of those ideas. Because at first we thought, because imagine people movers down below this thing would be outrageous, but if we can't afford to bury three stories and make it easy here, maybe there's some other ways to look at this. And that's an example of revisiting this thing and saying, all right, let's get more creative here. What else can we do this to maintain the ease that we're all trying to protect? You know, address the sustainability concerns about buses and all of that. At the same time, keep the magic of the ease of the urban. So those are the types of issues that will be re-explored before we go final with the city council.
Originally, when we were discussing the possibilities for the contract, there was one possibility of a facility basically at the end of 31 left. That would be, I guess, further north.
Further north.
Has that proposal completely gone away now?
Brian, I don't remember that under consideration.
We did take a look. We did take a look at that. The issue with going farther to the north is you're going to run the shuttle buses and the rental car traffic back and forth through some neighborhoods, and just some real concerns about mixing that traffic into the neighborhoods. Unfortunately, there are residential areas fairly close to the airport, particularly on the north side, north of the terminal.
So my question is that proposal off the table?
I think so.
Yes.
David Feldman?
Yeah, so there was an important element of this this work that's being done that relates to parking impacts. And that was not mentioned, Ryan. And I just want to, for the new commissioners, and also because this has been an issue that I've been raising throughout this process, can you just also state for the record what are the parking impacts that you're going to be looking at here?
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner Feldman. We are going to take another look at exactly defining each of the lots and how they might be the purpose of each lot in the future, as well as the potential to still acquire property. There's some there's an open parcel immediately to the south that could potentially provide more surface parking. But we'll be looking at and quantifying both the parking demand as well as the parking that's accommodated in each of the two layouts that we're going to be studying and refining.
I think the other thing that's also already part of the deal is the traffic study. So it's the Conrad, the parking, and the traffic study that we're really struggling. No, not struggling. That's the next wave of this process in the long range plan. Go ahead.
If we did go south and east to Kirk Douglas, the Conrad that we as a group approved, the Hallman, what would be there? Does Signature go away? Does everything that's existing over there and would have been replaced? That would just be a question for an answer for this.
That issue is being addressed in the expansion of this study. Okay. Yeah, we're looking at all of those issues now. Other questions?
It looks like Feldman.
David?
No.
Commissioner Young.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Hi, Ryan. So I think it would be useful. Certainly the scope of work implies that this will be included, and I trust that it will. But in terms of clarifying it for the commission, I mean, as we think about passenger activity level 3 versus 4, I know when we talked about the expansion of baggage claim, essentially we said that current expansion plans would get us through PAL 3. And so given that we are thinking long-term, if you'll clarify when the plans come back to us and recommendations, how much is accounted for through PAL 3 versus PAL 4, I think that would be very useful information for us to understand.
Absolutely, will do.
Brian, just we're trying not to use lingo too much with you folks. Help or just define that for us, please.
PALs are an acronym for planning activity level. So we've essentially taken the emplanement forecast. So the airport currently processes about 1.5 million emplanements. You have to double emplanements to get to total passengers. So that's about 3 million total passengers that pass through or processed through the terminal on an annual basis. PAL 4 projects that in 20 years to increase to potentially as much as 6 million total passengers. So we tie improvements to planning activity levels or PALs to estimate the facilities needed at each emplanement level or at each PAL.
Perfect sentence. Any other comments on this?
One other thing, on the diagram, lot E and lot G, is that a purchase of property that we do not own? Or is that owned property that is not? Jeremy, you know?
I can speak on that. Lot D is the parcel that we currently own, and then lot E would be proposed to purchase.
And all of that will come up in the parking study for sure. So I think the net is this. The city council, a little nervous around the positioning of the Conrack. We still don't know about traffic. We still don't have a clear sense of where we are with parking. And while we supported 1A, which had the Conrack here, we also said it's too tall. So we went down one story, and then we also said how to. Now we're looking at the south side of the pros and cons. So I think the proposal here is to approve the extension or the additional funds for them to help answer these questions, both for us as well as for city council. Anything else? Can I have a motion? Okay, second.
Is there anything in the room that wishes to make a public comment before we move forward?
Please.
Yes, your name?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I park over the employee lot, and I know how dangerous it is walking to the terminal. And you start parking rental cars out there, you know people are not always gonna take that shuttle bus. They're gonna be walking, and you're gonna have a lot more people walking on the roads. Nobody's gonna cross the street and use that sidewalk. And I know that because I usually won't cross, but I see how many people don't. You already have employees going back and forth, you have TSA going back and forth, now you're gonna have, citizens going back and forth. And with kids who are not gonna pay any attention to the cars coming around the curve. So you saw crossing first levels, you have, in my opinion, you're gonna have a serious problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Can we take a roll call, please? Thank you.
Sure. Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Berryman,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Corcoran.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, can we get a first motion on this?
That was from Commissioner McDermott. Did you have a second?
Thank you, sorry about that. And Corcoran, so yes, and Evan Steiner,
Yes.
Feldman,
Yes.
Fong,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Hyde,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Wiseman, yeah.
Yes.
Motion passes. Brian, one question before you jump out. In light of this and the extension of the contract, when is the next time you anticipate meeting with the ad hoc committee with updates? Are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still with you. Basically, we're not going to have ad hoc meetings. We're going to do most of this work over the course of the month of August and come back to you as a commission with at least an update in September. I don't think we'll have a recommendation yet in September, but we'll give you an update on our progress, and it'll be a good time to get some feedback from the commission. So Harry and airport staff decided that we should work directly with the commission throughout this amendment.
We'll look forward to that. Thanks, Ryan. Okay,
Thank you.
9C. Thank you. 9C, Public Relations Legislative Plan, the Airport Master Plan. Basically, it's getting additional support for how we manage PR communications around what's happening in this plan throughout our community. Victoria.
Actually, I'm going to introduce Trevor Daly with Daily Strategies, and he's going to give an update on that.
You want to?
Oh, go for it. Sorry, Scott. Scott Stiles, the city manager speaking. Excuse me.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, Scott.
Good, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Scott Stiles. I'm the city manager here in Palm Springs. And first of all, I want to take a moment and congratulate all the new commissioners that have been appointed here this evening. I came here about 16 months ago, and it's really an exciting time. I can't think of a more exciting time to be an airport commissioner right now than we are right now. A little scary, but really exciting, right? We have a tremendous amount of work going on. You know all about the master plan, you're learning about it. And I think, well, I haven't been here, back here for a while, and with everything going on, I think maybe you might be seeing me a little more frequently with everything we have going on. I remember telling the commission over a year ago, one of the very first people I hired when I got here was our fire chief, Paul Alvarado. We didn't have a full-time fire chief. I hired Paul Alvarado. One of the things that really impressed me about Chief Alvarado was he had been assistant fire chief of the city of Long Beach. And he had spent a lot of time working at the Long Beach airport. And I knew how critical that skill set was going to be for here at the airport. And if you haven't met Chief Alvarado, or if you haven't invited him here, you might invite him to a meeting sometime and have him talk a little bit about what they're doing. Their headquarters are right here on the footprint of the airport. They train differently at this station than probably all of our other 4 stations. So it's really an interesting business that we're in. So just thought I mentioned there very briefly. With all of the master plan stuff going on, I really felt it was going to be important for us to really ramp up all of our strategic communication that we're doing all throughout the Coachella Valley. You all know this is a regional gem and a regional resource for us. And we're so thankful that all of you are here and lending your expertise and volunteerism to us. But I knew in talking to my bosses on the Palm Springs City Council, just the need to, how do we communicate this massive project that's going to be going on, not just in Palm Springs. There's a lot of impact to us here in Palm Springs, but really across the region. And we started thinking a little bit, we had a big public meeting at the convention center that I saw some of you there. And it made me think, maybe that's kind of a little roadshow we should take to all of our community, the other communities here. And with the assistance of the representative from a particular city here, go to some of the city councils of some of our other cities and make some presentations about what's going on. I suspect if you're a commissioner for one of our other cities, you might think that might make a little bit of sense. We coordinate it, work with city councils in some of the other cities, and I think some of our other cities would appreciate hearing about some of this too. So I don't want to take all the credit for thinking like that. And because I want to introduce the gentleman that really has helped me think a little bit about it. Trevor Daly is with a group called Daily Strategies Group. I came to know Trevor because he's working with me and the city on a few other really important projects and issues that we have going on. As I was talking to Trevor more, I learned that he did a tremendous amount of PR work at LAX. And so that's a small little operation. And he has a tremendous amount of political experience. I'll let him talk a little bit about that, and legislative experience, a lot of contacts up in Sacramento, a lot of contacts in DC. And I think that that could be a tremendous, tremendous benefit to us. As we go forward, we're going to be chasing important grants, important funding opportunities, and it just, so I sat down with Trevor and his colleague, Mark Wire, I always say it wrong, I get a little bit. So sat down with Trevor and Mark, and we invited your chairman, Chairman Corcoran, to join us, along with Harry Barrett, and the five of us talked a little bit about some of the things that we think that we might be able to do going forward in terms of communicating this really important strategic plan to the wider community. So I didn't want to talk too much, just wanted to come and say hi. And I thought maybe I'd just ask Trevor to just say a few words about some of the work he's doing, how he thinks he can help us and help the airport, help the commission, help my bosses, and maybe help all of the other city councils on some of the things that we're doing going forward. So Trevor, you want to say a few words?
Sure. I'll be brief because it is really hot, and then we also have a packed agenda. I will say first, Scott Stiles has been here 16 months as the new city manager for the city of Palm Springs. I decided on a whim to leave Los Angeles and do full-time remote working here. And as you can tell, both Scott and I did not get the memo because we both have suits on. You all look really cool. He hails, his last job was in Orange County, mine is Hawaii, so you can tell how we dress. Mark and I have a huge amount of passion for airports. We spent over 3 years working at LAX. Just a quick on the background, most of my career from right out of college was with Senator Feinstein, spanning 17 years. And I ended my time in serving as her state director, overseeing San Diego, Los Angeles, Fresno, and San Francisco offices. While I was with her, I had this great love to come out here. I started with Riverside and San Bernardino because I had a passion for the homeless situation in San Bernardino County, and then the housing crisis and transportation issues in Riverside. And then the senator pushed me to make sure that no part of the state was left uncovered. And so I made a lot of contacts out here, ACTAB, Scott White, many others in the community. So I started making a lot of trips out to Palm Springs. I love the community. My colleague Mark used to have a home here. He comes out and he has a home up in Joshua Tree. And now I'm here full time. And so after I left Feinstein, I went to LAX and was the deputy CEO of external relations, overseeing 5 departments, nearly 70 staff. And then I had the opportunity to do a number of emergency hires. Mark was one of them, because when I got there, I realized that I needed to move around people. People were not in the right place. And my charge right away was to get the people mover approved without any lawsuits. And so I had to put a team together very fast. And Mark was the key person that led all the communications for the people mover. The people mover is what you see that's under construction right now. Mark and I and his team and the other parts of our team, we did probably over 300 to 400 of those open houses that you attended all throughout Los Angeles. We had to put together very unique programs. Instagram, for the very first time, LAX did Instagram platform videos reaching up to 1 million views of a video that Mark and his team put together. I say that because we're not just, the workers, we have a passion, because with airports, everybody loves to come to an airport. People are just spirited by it, it's exciting, we want to know where people are going, there's destination, people are connecting, there's loved ones, people are receiving people, it's a special place. They also go a little bit bonkers. I would always walk around LAX and people were confused, they didn't know where to go. And I'm like, people are off at airports too. So you always learn a lot at airports. But I have a newfound friendship and respect with Scott Stiles. And, he's really been charged by the city council individually to ramp up communications. Harry, Victoria, Daniel, Jeremy, everybody has operational jobs every minute of the day. I know that being on the other side. And so what we want to do is help them on how can we communicate the master plan. Some of you here, La Quinta, other parts of the Coachella Valley are critical. I don't know if you all know this, you probably do, but most of the travelers don't stay in Palm Springs. They go to the Coachella Valley, to your other cities. And so we have to communicate to Palm Desert, Indian Wells, La Quinta, Indio, and we have to make sure people, the stakeholders, constituencies feel just as special as Palm Springs. Sometimes a little bit more because the airport is here. We also have to take the message to people. So we don't, it's when you invite people to the airport, that's always great, but you always want to go to them, make them feel that their opinion is valuable. We did that over and over and over because the open house was great, but now what we're doing is we're spending nearly $400,000 to relook at things. And you want to make the stakeholders feel like they're part of that process. And so that we heard you, and now we're going to come back and look at this. The commission took this seriously. The city council took this seriously. So Scott and Harry have charged Mark and I to come up with outreach plans for the master plan, to make sure that we're looking at how does we communicate better with all of you? How can we assist the chairman to communicate with the press? Are we making sure that Amy at City Hall, who's the chief of communications, is dialed in, and we're helping Daniel and Daniel's deputy Jake communicate, and everybody's collaborating well. There's always like little fires that are going to come up. There is going to be the movement of the baggage claim already. We need to message that to the council, make sure that they're aware so they're not caught off guard. How can Mark and I, by the way, it's just not Mark and I, we have a team of 6 other people, but how can we really make sure that the council really feels comfortable and that we take their opinions back to Kevin, to Harry, to Scott, and so we're doing those in rapid time. So there's really a lot of good communication. Also, just because I was on the management side, I've offered, and Harry and I have talked often about, does Harry have the right talent? What else do we need? How can he be successful? Ryan talks about 20 years out. But as all of you have seen, Avelo has doubled up their flight from Santa Rosa to here. And as you all know, the airlines really dictate what the business is. And really, Palm Springs Airport is the landlord. And we have tenants that are here. And when there's some money, and it's going to drive what airlines are going to do. And so if they see a peak in seat loads, they're going to figure out a way to get an approval for a new route. So yay on Avelo. And so we just have, so yes, a 20-year plan, but there's a lot to do. And one thing that I think Scott has really identified is that as great as we've been trying to do things, there is just a lack of communication, connecting the dots, and making sure that every voice is really a part of the conversation. So that's what we plan to do. I'm really excited about it. And just the last part of the story is that after I was at LAX, Feinstein asked me to come back to her final campaign. She didn't realize that I had a big job at LAX. So I had to say yes to her just because my loyalties. I did that, and then I opened up my own firm, which I'm hugely proud of because it kind of takes all my worlds of homelessness, housing, aviation, foster youth, mental health. So we have 14 clients, most are in Los Angeles, and I'm here like probably 60% of the month, or not more. Oftentimes you'll find me in City Hall with Scott. So that's my information and background. Did I leave anything out?
Sounds good. Questions?
I like what you're doing. What do you want to do? Our council with Desert Milk Street. I send to our spas our meeting every day, and every time we have a meeting, and they're very interested. And they're one of our major revenues, which you were talking about. So I like this, and I like that when you are doing this, you're gonna not stop, you're gonna do it for 12 months. And that's good. And then our constituents, because I asked our city manager about doing a thing for our council. The hoteliers will be able to pass on what you're passing on to us. They'll be able to pass it on to their visitors. Yes, that's all I need.
Thank you. Other comments? Anyone on Zoom?
There's no one from the public on Zoom
Anybody in the public?
in the room that wishes to make public comment?
They're all good. Well, thanks, guys. Welcome aboard. We're thrilled to work with you and push forward to making progress, not only on the long range plan, but everything we do here at Airport. So thank you, Scott. Likewise. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you here. All right, moving forward. 9D taxiway rehabilitation project. Jeremy, I have two t-shirts.
All right. So we wanted to give you a quick update on a big project that we've been working on for a while, which is our main commercial parallel taxiway to the commercial runway, which is technically Whiskey. So we've been working the last year or so on design of that taxiway. It was identified a few years ago that with a pavement management plan that identified it was starting to see its wear and tear, and we needed to figure out how to get going on a design and rehab the main taxiway. So that's what has been being designed over the last year or so. We went out to bid earlier this year, and we just went to council last night to approve our low bid contractor, which is Maddich. So that was approved last night at council for that award to Maddich, and I think the total grant amount that not to exceed 8.6 million. The low bid came in around 7.3 million for Maddich. And so now we're working through with the FAA, waiting for the grant to arrive, at which point we can turn around and get the grant executed through Scott and start working with the contractors to get it scheduled. So we're probably looking at accepting a grant sometime in August and probably starting earliest in September, but most likely in October. So it'll be about a 5 to 6 month project where it's broken up into multiple phases to accommodate the air carriers in and out of the So
what's the implication on operations?
I'm sorry.
What impact will it have on operations?
It shouldn't have too much impact in operations. We're already working with the tower. We worked with the tower early on to look at the different phasing schedules that we had. There'll be a combination of some day work, a combination of some night work. And there will be some closures of the taxiway, but we'll always have access in and out of the commercial area.
So this is for our information.
Exactly. Yep.
Questions? When it starts, Will it take 5 to 6 months? You're saying we'll start the process in 5 to 6 months?
No. By the time we start, it'll be about a 5 month to 6 month project, the duration of the project.
Gotcha.
Any other questions online? Anybody from the public?
There's nobody on from the public on Zoom currently. Is there anybody in the room that wishes to make a public comment?
All right, good. You'll keep us informed. I'll set to move forward. All right, thank you, Chairman. All right, how about baggage handling? What's the update? You and Ryan on this?
Yeah, I think we have Ryan on the line here. Ryan, are you available to chat about a quick update on where we're at with the baggage handling system?
Yeah, I am, for sure.
All right,
I appreciate everybody giving me the time. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there in person for this meeting. I have a couple of figures. I'm not sure if I can share my screen or if you guys have one that you want to pull up.
Yeah, you should be able to share it.
Okay, share screen. All right, you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Quick update on the design here. Current layout and spatial orientation that's shown on this drawing is where we're currently at with the design. The configuration of the carousels is currently being updated to provide for 3 devices in the space allocated. This space is a newer space than what was originally designed. Main reason for the redesign was to align our design with the master plan to ensure a holistic solution that would work out at least through PAL 3, possibly PAL 4, depending on the growth speeds and the age of the system. That's the current design layout. The area that's in the bottom left corner is a portion of the existing screening system, as well as an extension of the building. In the previous iteration, before 30%, this was a standalone building. What we did is we shrunk this facility right up tight, close to the back of the Wexler terminal, and kept it under that 10,000 square foot limit so that we could make sure we could move forward quickly and easy with the expansion. Any questions on this? Recent upcoming milestones. We made a good milestone here, July 21st. We made a submittal to TSA and also submitted it to the airport, our 30% design submission. It's critical to get TSA's approval. The entire design is done above board, and we have bi-weekly meetings with TSA, airport, airlines, and all major stakeholders. We do have a currently scheduled TSA comment review meeting on August 5th. At that point, the TSA will give us either approval to proceed or comments with a revise and resubmit status. We are hopeful for a proceed to 70%. We've given the stakeholders and airlines, as well as the owners, until August 8th to get us their comments so that we can take the August 5th comments from TSA, as well as the August 8th comments from any of our stakeholders, and we can have enough time to get those included in our 70% design, which we're moving forward on currently. Expected delivery date is still holding August 30th. That brings us up from a design standpoint to 100% design on or about October 25th, the TSA. And our current published schedule has not changed since March. You can see right here is where we're at right now. We're in the TSA and PSP comment period, hoping to get those comments back in the next few weeks so we can move on to the 70%. Quick little timeline just to show you the key milestones. It's an iterative process. We submit with more detail, comments, incorporate the comments, resubmit until we get out to our bid issue date. It's actually 12/16/2024 is the current date that we're scheduled to issue the design for bid. Open coordination status. As I said, we have revised the screening area and coordinated with both the master plan, Mead & Hunt, and the master architects at Gensler. We're currently coordinating power with Palm Springs We're going through everything from the cogen to the existing as-built. The main issue that we're trying to resolve is the power demand for the BHS system is going to require an upsize of some of that power equipment infrastructure. In order to keep the baggage system working while we're doing this surgery on the system, there is a temporary screening area required, and we're currently ongoing in coordination to determine the needs for the facility with TSA. It's only a temporary facility, so it will be very plain Jane. We are currently anticipating a temporary sprung type structure with environmental controls for the workers during that time frame. With the intent that it be removed at the end of construction. We have identified the sort area. The new canopy is now being identified. We are right now getting our civil contractors to go out there and do our geotech, get ready to get them out to do boring, get some boring samples so that we can make sure the structural portion of the new canopy is correct for your area being so close to the seismic zone. We're following the ASC high seismal requirements. Detailed phasing plans are currently being developed primarily to ensure that we can keep maintained operations and 100% bag screening throughout construction. And that's my update on the BHS. I do have obviously the full drawing package, a 3D rendering here, if it makes it a little more intuitive as to what we're looking at here. This is the overall baggage system screening area, sorted in blue. Should be able to screen all the bags. In regards to coordination with the master plan, you can see here on my Power BI, TSA gives us a planning methodology that we need to follow using a flight schedule with TAF growth rates. And we obviously have our master plan. So what we did is we created this graph to show based on the growth, what year TSA uses data beneficial use plus years. And the master plan is using PAL, right? Activity levels. So what we tried to do is get these planning activity levels aligned with a date based on TSA. You can see the master plan growth scenario. We have a low, base, and high. And for TSA, we came with the 3 different TAF growth rates that they provided and publicly issued over the years. So what that means is that our baggage system is sufficiently sized for at least for the DBU plus 15. So the data beneficial use of the system plus 15 years. That's what TSA wants us to design future-proof it to. That's what we've done. And this kind of shows you, depending on when you hit your PALs, what the age of your system would be like. So if it's low growth, your system from a TSA standpoint will go through its entire life. If we get into these high PAL growth rates, we'll still get about a 15-year growth rate out of it before we get into a scenario where more bags are being input into the system than we can process at a given time. And there's no shortage of data available here to show what the maximum passengers and or bags we might see based on carrier or based on peak hour, peak minute, however we need the information separated out by carriers or overall for the whole airport.
Questions?
Yeah, questions.
Questions? Scott?
Do we know how long the temporary facility will be required during the construction?
Did you hear the question, Ryan?
Yeah, the last schedule did not incorporate the addition of that piece of work into the phasing. I don't have an actual number right now that I can give you and be correct. I can get that number over to the airport as soon as my technical team gives me the durations. I can tell you that we didn't see an increase in the duration of the project as a result of that temp facility. We're probably looking at somewhere around 9 months if I had to give a time frame.
Thanks.
Other questions? Question to the city. We don't have an attorney with us tonight, right? No attorneys there?
On Zoom, Jeremy's on Zoom.
Jeremy on Zoom.
Yeah, I am.
For those of you who are new, we went through this whole process and installed an outgoing package facility. I think it was finished in 19. And it didn't work. And ergo, this expense now, this kind of ties into the long range plan, but it didn't work for maybe 18 months. We found we had to trash the thing and start over again. Has anything ever happened to recoup those funds? I know that there was some legal action to that vendor, and has anything been resolved to try to recoup any of those funds?
I know that the matter has been presented to the city council. I don't exactly know how those discussions or what direction came out of that one, but I can come back and get some details for you guys. I believe that, they were evaluating whether or not to proceed with a claim or whether or not it was worth it, but that's all I know at this point.
It's just something that Jeff Allinger has promised us. It's just interesting to know.
Yeah.
Considering how much money we had to flush on that brand new system, which is unfortunate. Other questions about this before we move on? Jeremy, you good? Yeah. All right. Everybody all right?
Anybody from the public in the room wish to make a public comment? No public comments, and then nobody on Zoom that is for the public.
Thank you so much.
I think Commissioner Feltman, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I kept raising and lowering the hand. So, sorry if I missed this, but this intersects with parking as well, is that correct?
No, so this is all airside.
Isn't the
Final
temporary?
conditions is airside. I think only time you would see it is when we get into the complex phasing required to keep the system running during installation. Let me see if I can get it real quick. So the first thing we have to do is build the canopy so that we can get the sortation moved, because we need that area for the expansion. Once we get this canopy, we're going to go down one carousel temporarily, and that's going to allow us to install this third carousel and this screening area during this time while we're down to these two carousels. So this would be the time where we'd be down one carousel. As part of a couple of small cutovers, we'll disconnect the existing sort system, and then we'll do a quick tie-in to get the existing screening system working with the new sort system while TSA is in this area, which I think is maybe an executive parking spot in the corner. So that is the only spot of parking I think that we're asking for.
Thank
yes,
you.
sir.
Anyone else? Awesome, Ryan. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, let's go to 9F, marketing and air service. Dave?
I don't need to add to the president or the update is already in your packets unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions? Any questions from Zoom or any of the guests?
We have no public, nobody from the public on Zoom.
Right. If there's no questions, let's move on to 9G. Measure J. Thrilled to have Chris Mooney with us. Welcome. Thank you. It's our city CFO. For those of you who haven't met him. Updates on Measure J. How much money do we have?
You're gonna talk about dollars? So good evening, commissioners. Thanks for having me. So I'm here to talk about, so I'm also the staff liaison to the Measure J Commission, in addition to the Director of Finance and Treasurer for the City of Palm Springs. For the new commissioners, I'll quickly go over what I'm going to talk about. It was a ruling that was handed down by the FAA to the city that says if you collect sales tax on aviation fuel, that sales tax has to be set aside for airport projects or airport operations. So just a little quick funny story I just want to tell real quick, because 2 finance directors ago, Jeff Keel, who's sitting right here, is the one who actually implemented this ruling. And we've been accruing funds for the airport since Jeff implemented this in 2017. When I first got here as staff liaison to Measure J, I saw I had to present the financials to the Measure J Commission. But when I presented them, there was always this amount that was budgeted. It was $200,000 every year for this. It just said for the airport. I had no idea what it was. There's no descriptions. So in digging through some of the Measure J files, I happened to see these letters from 2 finance directors ago, Jeff Keel, to the FAA. That's how I learned about what this was. So thanks to Jeff, and if I say something wrong tonight, Jeff can jump in. So thank you, Jeff, for those letters, because otherwise I'd still be in the dark. So what it is the FAA handed down this ruling in 2015, had to be implemented by 2017. And a process had to be given to the FAA of how are we going to collect this tax and how are we going to account for it. So we have been collecting $200,000, setting it aside basically every year for airport projects. Hasn't been used until just recently. But we also knew that it was just an estimate, just 200,000, throw in the dart, didn't know what it was. It actually was a pretty good estimate in 2018, 2019, and 20. However, recently, since our sales tax revenues has significantly increased, that number has jumped up to about 500,000. Well, we knew this because I had engaged our tax consultants earlier this year because we had gotten away from the process that Jeff had established because nobody really knew what it was. The tax consultants were able to dig in and find out the vendors for aviation fuel, find out who the city was collecting tax for, and finding out the exact amount of tax that was collected. And they went all the way back to 2018 and gave me the numbers all the way to date. Well, that $200,000, as I just said, became $500,000. Well, when we first talked about this last year, we had talked about an amount that we thought we were going to end up with based on the $200,000 estimate. At the end of our fiscal year 25, it was going to be about $1.5 million. So Jeremy and Airport Victoria, they came to the commission and asked for projects to spend this $1.5 million. One of the projects is a shade structure over the rideshare area. Is that correct? That was about $1 million. And there's a few other projects, which I can't remember what they were, but
It was the water fountains, some new flooring, and
the benches.
And the benches.
that's right. So that took up
What's the design?
the estimate on that cost was about $1.5 million, but I don't know if we RFP'd it or vetted it out completely just yet. So that it could be, more than that. Well, when we got the tax consultant's numbers of the exact amount of sales tax collected, it ended up being at the end of this year about 2.7 million.
Yes.
So we got about an extra $1.2 million for the airport. We're going to set aside $500,000 every year until we see a decline in sales tax. So we think that's a fairly good estimate every year. But you got another 1.2 to spend. So there you go. Now, one other thing. This also does apply to the 1% Measure J sales tax. It also applies to the 0.5% Measure D sales tax. That we haven't given any numbers to you yet. That's also about $1 million year to date. So you got about 2.2 left to spend. Now the Measure D money goes into our general fund. But at the end of this audit year, I think we're going to go ahead and restrict that money in our fund balance when we talk to the auditors to make sure we've got everything all squared away. So right now it's an estimate of about $1 million. But at the end of the audit, when everything clears out in November, December, we'll give you guys exact amounts. But we think it's what you have to spend is about $2.5 million.
Here we go. So we've already spent, we went through, those of you who went through an exercise where we identified our priority was we wanted to spend this money in ways that would impact the customer experience. Right? We're going to buy fire trucks. We're going to buy other things that have been proposed. We really wanted to focus on the customer experience. So like ergo the shade structures. At one point, we thought we would put it all into the wireless, but then we found the city needed to pay for that themselves. But we went through a process to identify opportunities with that frame. But what's going to really, how do we use this money to really make a difference to the customer experience? And so the money has been allocated for those projects. We're now waiting for those projects to happen. But do we have permission now to plug that process in and start gathering other ideas for the million?
Yeah, it's reserved. I would say for the $1 million that the Measure D that we haven't really quite gotten to yet. I would say, we'll get to it in a few months, so, but, I want to make sure that through the audit, everything's fine and it's still appropriate to do that and we can restrict the funds, just automatically allocating the million. And then at that time, I say you're free to use it. But on the Measure J side with that $1 million, it is available to use.
Great news. For Rich. Any other questions about this? So thank you. And I guess if there's an action step here, it's start to think about, as you experience this airport, start to think about things that could really make a difference. And then we'll find time to, in our meetings, to brainstorm that process, see if, like we did before, we can whittle down to X number of projects, get everybody's thumbs on the table, and then get the money.
Yeah, just one thing to add to that. So the process is that it does have to come to the commission. The commission would recommend projects to the city council, and then the city council has the authority to appropriate funds. Oh, sorry, that's correct. It also has to go to the measure. So it goes to the airport commission to decide, then to the Measure J commission, and it has to be collaborative and have to agree on the projects. So that means somebody from the airport would come present, the projects to the Measure J commission. Then once that agreed upon, then it's sort of a joint recommendation to the city council.
They were pretty supportive. Recommendations before. Brian, did you have your hand up with a comment?
Chris answered it. I was wondering about what the process was to finally get something approved, and so he just explained that. Thanks.
All right. Any other comments on that? You're welcome to come anytime.
Is there anybody in the room that wishes to make a public comment at this time? No public comments.
Chris, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, parking analysis. Now we're at 9H Victoria.
All right, may I make a recommendation that we move the Turo above that? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. And the only reason why I'm asking that is because I have Ethan Dunkel from Turo on the line here, and I know it's probably pretty late for him too, so I just wanted him to do his presentation. It should be pretty quick. So as y'all are aware, or may not be aware, but the Airport Commission recommended to the City Council to approve the Turo agreement back in November, December of 2023. So this is just giving you an update on what's going on here. It's already been 6-7 months, and Ethan's going to go through and do a quick presentation on, how Turo is doing here at Palm Springs Airport. So Ethan?
Thanks so much, Victoria. I appreciate that. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to the airport and the commission. Again, I just want to extend our thank you. As Victoria said, we worked together on collaborating a permit back in December. We were able to launch that and are successfully running it. We believe we're exceeding expectations. It's been a great partnership so far. And I just want to extend the thank you that this commission was able to do to recommend and approve that agreement. So real quick, I just wanted to give everyone a Turo overview. I'm sure some of you probably don't even know what Turo is. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. Many liken Turo to the Airbnb of cars. So what that is, our platform provides a service that allows guests, presumably your airport customers that are flying in, to choose from a completely unique selection of nearby cars. These are cars owned by your local private vehicle owners, and they're offering them on our platform to earn extra cash, offset the cost of ownership, and share the experience, perhaps if it's a fun car. And real quick, I'll just go through just how does this benefit the airport and the community. I think everyone's aware that cars are becoming a quite expensive and underutilized asset or liability, depending on how you look at it. Most of the cars are sitting in a garage, in a driveway. There's, the mission of Turo is putting the 1.4 billion cars of the world to better use. Cars are sitting across the world, just sitting in driveways, and we're offering an opportunity for your local community to put the cars on the platform, rent them out, generate income, and even more importantly, all of these bookings are creating revenue that's coming back to your community. It's a cycle of revenue generation. Whereas, you know, some of the more traditional rental car companies where the revenue is collected and held by the larger organization, the helping their bottom line, the bigger interests and stakeholders, our platform allows that money to be fed back into the community and generate cycles of wealth. More on that, how does the airport benefit and what is it for the airport customer? What we've learned is that Turo is offering an experience that the customers really want. We're growing quickly. If you're familiar with Turo's history or background with airports, they didn't quite understand how to involve themselves with them. The land side of airports is obviously a congested puzzle. And what we've been able to do over the course of the past couple of years is develop a program that is suitable for airports, generates good income, and we've been able to build that across 130 airports now, Palm Springs being one that we launched back in December. And again, this gives the opportunity for your airport customer to pick the exact vehicle they want. It's not just a standard sedan. It's not just a standard minivan that they're getting fed at the counter from a rental car company. They're actually going on our platform. They're scanning through hundreds, thousands of vehicles that are being offered in the area, and they're picking the exact one that they want. So whether it be that they want to cruise Palm Springs in a convertible, a classic old vehicle, or book something exotic, or just have something standard for a business trip or a minivan for a family vacation, you get to choose all of that. Everything down to the model, to the year, to the tires that are on it. That's something that you have the diverse selection to pick from. And another thing is that's the entire experience is app-based. This is something that, you know, we've obviously promoted over time, is to skip the rental car counter, where, you know, a lot of customers have grown frustrated with the process of dealing with ticket counters and people and the line of cars that they're dealt with. Turo's offering something that's more streamlined there, where the program we've set up, they're actually landing at the airport. They're obviously pre-booking the vehicle before their travel, but they're landing at the airport. They've already communicated with the local host. The host has delivered the car to the airport parking lot, and they're going out and picking it up seamlessly. A lot of times with their newer vehicles, it's even unlocked with our app. They just walking up within 10 feet, tapping the button, they hop in and they go. It's a seamless and efficient platform, and people are really starting to pick up on it and enjoy it. And we've seen, again, Palm Springs is exceeding expectations. So we're really excited to be a part of this. So real quick, I just want to give a program overview. So I mentioned we launched back in December 15th of last year. We just have a 1-year pilot program right now. Victoria and I talked a lot about this, just trying to put some sort of a structure around it so that we can learn from what we're seeing in the operation. So far, it's going pretty well. We do have the option to renew it annually, and we'll probably tweak it a little bit where we're seeing customers are gravitating towards, or things that are working aren't working. We're just kind of trying to work through that together. And so the operating model itself has two aspects to it. So there's one that we call the open parking model, which is our hosts and guests have access to the public parking just as anyone else would, any other airport customer. The hosts are having the booking, they're delivering the vehicle to any open and available space in the parking lot, and then they're communicating with their guests, hey, it's in this lot, it's in this row, go ahead and go pick it up. And then the second aspect of that is having some sort of an in-person exchange area. We have a dedicated zone off the commercial there on Kirk Douglas, where it's just a space long, where if there's a situation like an ADA or pregnancy, or maybe perhaps even a vehicle that they just want to see the inside and talk to the host before they hop in and get going, we have an opportunity there where they can meet face to face, get an understanding of the car, and go on their way. Generally, it's not used. I'm sure Victoria can probably comment more on this. I'm guessing it's likely 2 or 3 times a day. Across our platform, across the airports, it's generally less than 2% of all of our bookings utilize these in-person exchanges, but it is something really convenient that's loved by the people who do, and we're happy to have it here. And then lastly is just the fees that we paid. So this was negotiated back last year. We paid 10% of all gross revenue on the bookings, and then any use of the parking facilities is paid at full cost. And then I just thought I'd go through a quick business review to date. The Here's the trips that we've collected over the course of December through June 30th. We've had over 9,000 trips. Again, this exceeded our expectations. You can see there that we have similar seasonality to the rental car companies or even your air traffic peaks in March, and this equates to about a daily key exchange of about 35 to 40 keys. This also in turn is about 45,000 booking days. So some back of the envelope math will just tell you that generally each of these bookings is about 5 days, which most would consider pretty long when you compare it to a general or a standard rental car company. It seems that our customers are utilizing our platform in Palm Springs for a little bit longer of a duration, so likely vacations or extended stays. And then lastly is this chart here that I'm really excited about. These are the actual remitted revenues to Palm Springs. The left side of the chart is actually generated revenue. These are the physical checks that we're cutting to Palm Springs. So again, you see the seasonality in the spring. In March, we had a great month. We cut a check to Palm Springs of $100,000. We felt that was fantastic. We've kind of forecasted out here through the end of the year, and we expect to generate about $600,000 in remitted revenue to Palm Springs in the calendar year 2024. I think when Victoria and I were chatting through this last year, we were estimating about 300,000. So we're really blowing it out of the water. It's a testament to just your community and what they like and how they utilize the platform. But again, we're excited to see these. Another slide here, just talking about other Palm Springs revenue. So again, the slide before was and the chart was just the remissions from 10% of gross revenues. On top of that, our hosts and guests are paying for any parking space that they're utilizing. On average, they're spending about 2 to 3 hours in there. If you figure the local private vehicle owner is dropping off the vehicle with a little bit of cushion there, they're probably dropping it off like an hour and a half before the aircraft actually lands. They're letting the guests know, hey, it's in this lot, it's in this row. And then the guest gets, deboarded. They probably go to the restroom, collect their bags. That overall time frame to pick up the vehicle and get on their way is generally 2 to 3 hours, and they're going to pay that fee. So when you factor that in, it's actually bumping up the effective gross percent of revenue that we're paying. It's likely 15 to 20%. And it's also generating approximately, and this is just a forecast for probably the end of the year, an additional $300,000 for Palm Springs. The last of my presentation here is just a few slides on some of the breakouts and demographics of what we're seeing here. So bookings by brand, we've noticed that obviously you can tell Toyota, Honda, Hyundai are the by far favorites. This shows that there's a big demand for people booking your standard vehicles. They're probably doing whether it be a road trip or business and leisure travel, whatever it is. They're gravitating towards a lot of the standardized vehicles that Honda, Toyota offer. You do see at the bottom that we have some of those exotics that we talk about or that we market a lot on our platform, the McLaren, the Aston Martin. They get a few bookings a year, so perhaps you'll see them in the parking lots. But overall, it looks like the airport customer collective is kind of sticking to that more standard car. Vehicles by fuel type. This is something that Turo, we like to pride ourselves in, is that we have a good selection of environmentally friendly vehicles, green cars, and generally across the US, about 18% of our entire portfolio is some form of EV or hybrid. But we're actually seeing at Palm Springs an even higher demand. So of all your bookings, about 20.3% fall in that category of hybrid, which would be EVs and hybrid vehicles. So it's interesting, and it just shows that your community is passionate about or utilizing these types of vehicles that are a little more green. And then a couple of slides here, fun at the end. Top 5 vehicles booked at Palm Springs. Your Teslas, people love to book Teslas on Turo. A lot of times they're either feeling them out, where we hear that customers, you can't go to a dealership and test drive a Tesla. So they say, why don't I go on Turo? I'll book one while I'm traveling and I'll see if I like it. The other is gas prices. A lot of people are moving towards, an EV just so that they don't have to pay that gas while they're traveling. And then the others are the standardized vehicles that I kind of mentioned before, your Camry, Sienna, and your Pilot. This is likely just your everyday business traveler or your or family on vacation. And lastly, some of these other ones that are also available, it's fun to just kind of think about what you could do on the platform. These are all vehicles that are offered in Palm Springs. These are someone in the local community owns these vehicles and they're offering them up to others, whether it be to experience it or to travel in it. Everything from a Lamborghini, McLaren, to an old classic car, Porsches and Cadillac DeVilles, and then even the newly listed Cybertruck that just hit the streets pretty recently. In Palm Springs, people are already buying it and already offering it. I'm sure I've seen bookings already through our data. I'm sure you're seeing them perhaps at the airport, and that's all I have for you guys. Just want to give an update and thank you again to Victoria and the full team for just allowing us to cultivate this partnership. It's been fun. And again, we're just blown away that we've done so much business at Palm Springs.
Thanks, Ethan. Anybody have any questions?
I have a comment. When we voted on it, I said, okay, sure, we'll get a couple bucks. I had no idea that this is this big.
I think it's real kudos to Victoria, because like you, we all look at each other like, you're gonna do what? For how much money? And I mean, the money that you're generating, again, with the support of your partnership, this is really a lovely surprise. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
And then also, I mean, it's just diversifying our passenger experience, right? So that now our passengers have options, right? They don't have to, just go to the rental cars. They now have Turo. So, so thanks again to the commission too. And the staff.
On our website, we make people aware of their service on our website.
I am not sure though. Yeah, we'll take a look.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Other comments?
Just one comment, going back to about a dozen years ago, when we were originally working on the first master plan and talking about the parking facility. We talked about then about being probably dedicated space for maybe valet parking or just kind of a higher end parking. As the people are working on those plans, don't forget the tie-in. It might be good to partner with Turo to have dedicated space. It's good for them, it's good for you. Always have a more steady revenue source for these higher end vehicles. So they don't want them sitting, out.
And lobby.
They don't want them sitting out in anything, right? And the whole valet part is a complication, but even if it isn't valet, just say, hey, we're parking McLaren in this special area in the facility.
Right.
Great.
Thanks for the feedback.
Other comments?
I didn't want to give you kudos. That is all we use when we travel now. Turo, in all the other airports, it is so convenient because again, and I hear this feedback from RDS as well. The lines from the rental cars and it is what it is, right? They get frustrated. So we've actually, since we heard about the program, have suggested people download the app and take advantage of it, and it's been really well received. Thank you.
Thank you.
With all this newfound money, do you think we get Apple Pay? We got $2 million spent here, and now we got another 600,000. Is there any way we can get?
We are working on it. We are working on that.
Miracle.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Commissioner Tracy Martin has a question on Bill.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry if this is a repeat, I apologize. I'm having a hard time with some of the echo. Could Ethan or Victoria talk to us about the relative economics between a Turo booking and a rental car booking for the airport?
Yeah, Ethan, do you want to take that one or do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I just want to clarify, are you asking the overlap of customer?
I'm just saying if I come to Palm Springs and I decide to rent a Turo car instead of going to the rental car agencies, what's the economics for Palm Springs? Does Palm Springs get more from my Turo booking or less if they than a rental car?
Yeah, so the specifics of that, Victoria might have to speak to. What I can give you is a ballpark on Turos. We pay 10% of gross revenue, and then in addition to that, we're paying the parking. That's likely bumping us up somewhere in the range of 15 to 20% effective percent of gross. To make that apples to apples with a rental car company, it's difficult because they have different costs and revenue that's being generated. You know, they're paying for ticket counters, they're paying for other things, they're leasing space. But I think if you try to get as close to apples as you can, the rental cars are somewhere right around the 15% range. So I'm not going to say we're paying the airport more, but there's a good chance of it.
So there are different fees. So for one, 10% of gross revenue, like what Turo does, is the same thing that what the rental car companies do. So they pay 10% of gross sales. So, and that was one thing too that we wanted to keep consistent across the board, because we wanted to make sure that, you know, customers had an option, but then also we're not completely cannibalizing the rental car companies, right? Which, you know, we're not. It's equal across the board. In addition, though, the rental car companies do pay a customer facility charge. It's an additional, depending on how long you rent the vehicle for, that is an additional $9 per day up to 5 days for a total of $45 that we get. And all of those customer facility charges are then applied towards our consolidated rental car facility or any type of busing operations that's going to come with that. So there's a little bit of different fees, but still the same 10% of gross revenues is the same with Turo and the rental car companies. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Martin?
Yes, sort of. I think it would be interesting to see it maybe after the first year. You know, our average booking revenue from Turo is X and our average revenue from a rental car booking is Y, just to make sure that we're not, you know, even if it's apples to apples on the 10%, is their average booking so much lower than the rental car company that 10% is still lower? So just something to do when we get to our year anniversary, I think would be interesting.
Okay, thank you for the feedback.
Great point, Tracy. Thank you for that. Others, real quick, I know we need to move on. Are we on the honor plan? One applies in the Palm Springs, laws on the Turo, leaves, how do you know?
I'll let Ethan answer that one.
I apologize. I wasn't able to understand the question.
How does one know when someone gets a Turo vehicle? How does the airport know that that vehicle was picked up here at the airport? Besides the parking, that 10%.
How does it? Yeah. So what we've done is, and we've actually it's a longer conversation, but in the app we're utilizing Google mapping and a point of interest. So we're drawing a map around the airport, and anything that's selected or booked within that is being tagged as an airport booking, and the fee is automatically applied and then remitted. Does that answer?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
It looks like Commissioner Young on Zoom.
Yes, thank you. You know, this may actually be, Ryan, as much for you as it is for Ethan or Victoria, but as we think about future facilities in terms of where we locate opportunities for people to pick up Turo, or if there are future competitors. I don't know if rental car companies and Turo and Brethren would be compatible neighbors, but I think in terms of, you know, thinking about long-term plans, if this has taken off like this in the short run, really trying to evaluate, particularly with respect to long-term parking needs amongst local residents as well, to think about how that's factored into our long-term planning.
Absolutely. And I'd like to just mention that, you know, I have opened myself up to Victoria and the airport team. We're here for the partnership, and we can be flexible as we need to make sure that it works for all parties.
And it looks like we have one more. Commissioner Evan Steiner.
Thank you. A question for Ethan. Are you in airports that you don't have an agreement with the airport?
Yes.
And how does that process work? How is that different than what our arrangement is?
Well,
Yeah, so we currently have an agreement with Toro.
Yes, I understand that. I just want to know how it works at airports that don't have it.
Yeah, well, if you ask certain people, they may say that that's illegal operation because they do not have a permit to operate there. I'm a former airport consultant. I spent about 10 years with Recondo, and I came over to Turo to kind of help them with this. They really didn't understand the airport dynamic or the community in general. So we've been on a campaign to permit every single airport in the U.S. In the past 2 years, we've been able to permit 130. We hope to be well over 200 by the end of the year. I don't know if you're asking for perhaps a peer airport or a friend airport that is not permitted yet. You're welcome to share my contact. Just about every permit of those 130 are very similar. They're the exact same structure and language in them. So happy to share those and get permitted. We're just making our way down the long list.
Got it. All right. Oh, one other thing is when you mentioned you have your mapping and when a car rental happens within that mapping, you note it and it pays the 10% to the airport. Is there some sort of audit of that? I mean, how do we understand how that all works?
Yeah, sure. There will be. As of right now, we self-report similar to some of the other ground transportation operators, and we're working with the AAAE. Again, these are initiatives that myself and two other airport people who have come over to Turo are pushing along. But we're coordinating some efforts with the AAAE to make sure that they can third-party self-verify what we're doing and ensure all the airports that everything is accurate. But in addition to that, we provide a monthly report to the team over here in Palm Springs of every transaction that occurs at the airport, including license plate number, owner IDs, time of booking, timeout, everything. Every piece of data that we have currently, we're providing to the airport, and we continue to work to make our app better. And again, that's what we're going to do with the AAAE. We're going to make sure that everything's third-party verified, and then we can actually open up and show everyone.
Perfect. Yeah. Thanks.
Others?
Is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to make a public comment? Anybody in the room that wishes to make a public comment? No.
Thank you, Ethan. Appreciate it. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Kevin, we gotta head to a dinner. My cars are here if anybody wants to reach out. Thank you so much. Congratulations to the new people and happy to be in touch and meet for coffee, lunch, dinner, whatever.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. Steve as well. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, all right. I'll try to make this as quick as I can. All right, so the parking rate study. So before you tonight and in your packet, you're going to see a memo in regards to a parking rate study that was done by Frasca, which is our new financial consultant that we recently onboarded with us. They did a parking analysis to comparable airports as well as comparable airports or other airports within the Southern California area. And so the purpose of them doing that is because we were hearing the commission's concerns about potentially increasing the daily parking rate. So they did the analysis, they provided their analysis inside of the commission package. And so I'm just gonna try to go as quickly as I can. I actually had Frasca prepare this presentation for me. And so I'll relate to you all what is in a very high level overview of the memo that they provided in your packet here. So our parking is our second largest source of revenue. So the number one is the rental cars. So they give us 10% of gross sales. This year, we're about either close to between 10 to $11 million of gross sales that we're getting from the rental car companies. So our second largest source of revenue is parking. So we have 4 public parking lots that are within walking distance from the terminal. Please note that we did not evaluate the economy lot. So that is not included in here. We're not looking at that. We're not looking at changing the rate for it. We're only talking about lots A through lot D, okay? The rates are based on duration with the maximum rate for 20 minutes, hourly and daily periods. We just recently increased the hourly rates, and we added a new rate for $28 for oversized vehicles in fiscal year 2024, but we had kept the daily rate the same. I'm sorry, we changed the rates in fiscal year 2025. What we're proposing is to change the maximum daily rate from $20 a day to $24 a day. And so that change is expected to generate for the airport about an additional $1 million. And who knows, it could potentially be more. So we looked at 7 other Southern California airports and we compared the rates to that. So you'll see where we stand with those other airports. We haven't changed the daily rate to go with inflation since 2018. And so that's one of the reasons why we're looking at this to see if this is something that would be a good option for us. Looking at, Commissioner, no, okay. Looking at the rates for other walkable parking facilities in Southern California, you'll see here that PSP is comparable to SNA at $20 a day. And then, of course, you see LAX at $60 a day. So we're right now at the lowest rate compared to other airports. Commissioner Wiseman, are you sure? Cool. Okay, all right. The average, so Nebraska also did a comparison to the average airfares here at Palm Springs compared to other airfares, other airports. And you'll see here that, again, Palm Springs is, at the lowest percentage rate there at 9%. And then another comparable airport would be like Long Beach, because Long Beach has like an open air concept. Not same number of employments, but open air concept. So, when you look at the $20 rate that was imposed back in 2018, today they're recommending that we should probably be increasing our parking rates to $26. And so our rates will, if you're including inflation and, we're deferring maintenance, and with our new parking operator contract that we have with ABM, that's increasing our parking operating expenses. So that's, something that we also need to keep in mind here. We have other revenues that we're going to be potentially collecting, like with, electric vehicle chargers, like Commissioner Corcoran was asking, when are we going to get Apple Pay? And we're currently have a request for proposal out on the streets for a new parking control system that we're trying to put in place here at the airport so that it can give reservation systems. It can allow for passengers to be able to pay online by their phone and have more of a convenience than what we currently have right now. So, increasing these rates is also going to help us with those future costs to make those improvements there at our parking lots. So overall, based off of their analysis that they did, they are suggesting that we do our parking rate increase from $20 to $24. We would have to take this to City Council. It would have to be posted because it is one of the rates that we have that's public that we have to make known. So we would have to post that for 30 days and we're hoping to have the new rates effective on October 1st. Again, the $24 is still below the Southern California benchmark, except for SNA, John Wayne, is that John Wayne? John Wayne Airport. And so we're hoping that we can, continue to review and benchmark to other airports and then do this probably every 2 years. So the proposed rate would be in place for a couple of years until we do another analysis. In your packet there, just kind of gives you some more information, but you'll see here, like Palm Springs Airport with our different parking lots, how, you know, how much the rate is, how many spaces we have, and then like the walking distance in feet, and then like our average airfare. So, you know, it gives us our maximum daily rate of percentage of airfare, about 9.4%. But to give you the walking distance, that's kind of one thing that we've heard from other, I think even Daniel may have, you know, in the past received complaints about how far our parking is and our rates for parking. And so just to give you an idea, our parking lots are actually pretty conveniently located when you're comparing to other Southern California parking lots. So that's why we put that walking distance on there. So you and the public can see that we actually have pretty convenient walking locations for our lots A through D compared to other airports there. And then, so ultimately what we're asking tonight is for the commission to hopefully you've taken a look at the memo and ask any questions that you have, but we would like to recommend for the airport commission to recommend the city council to approve a new parking rate of $24 a day. Commissioner Whiteman?
I think this rate increase doesn't nearly far enough. I think that we're mispricing our parking in absurd ways where when you want to get a spot close and be within that 300 to 400 foot walking distance, if you would price that lot higher to the point where when you come, no matter which season, that you will be able to find someone who's willing to pay that price, and that we reduce or keep the price low on the further shuttle parking lots, then we can segment our customer base and everyone will be satisfied with the parking that they're receiving. And we should really be looking at different seasonal rates, a summer rate and a winter rate, because in winter, the parking is mobbed and we run out. And in summer, we have too much of it. Ontario has a $30 maximum rate, and they have absurd amounts of parking compared to us. So I think the city can go far enough when it's thinking about our parking situation here at the airport.
So do what you're proposing to do. We would have to rearrange or have different check-in, check-outs for the closer parking lots to get one.
Yeah. And I would propose, you know, at least a $30 maximum rate on the close lot and in season, if not quite a bit more.
I think there's been a lot of conversation about that amongst the team. We're just not set up for that yet, unfortunately. We do have a new park system that's been advertised, and when we get that new system in place, there might be other, opportunities to figure out how to parcel things out. And we eventually get to the economy lot, and that is squared away 100% of the time that people can choose that. Right now, you can't choose that.
Yeah.
It's not open, for people to choose. So, yeah, I think
If we at least look at seasonal rates and have, if you're gonna do this has to be a posted, rates that applies the entire year, then crank it up a lot higher and you can adjust the parking as you see fit, based on what you're seeing in the parking lot and start fine tuning it.
Yeah, no, they're great ideas. I think that's just hard to do because you wouldn't be able to have set fees on a display when you come to the lot. You would have to have a digital display. You would have to, have to be dynamic. It's changing. So again, I think set up on that yet.
If you publish somewhere in winter rates, because
And it only needs twice a year to change them.
Just change the thing twice a year.
yeah.
In answer to the comment about, having the different lots, when I was here before, they used to have, and I wasn't personally involved with the decisions on that, but I know that the staff was discussing the flows, the parking lots was complicated by having the higher price short-term parking lot focus And I know people tend to come and park so seldomly that they're not familiar with the layout. They may come into the wrong parking lot and say, okay, oops, I'm in the higher end lot. I really didn't want to be here. I have to get out of here to go to another lot, a cheaper lot. And it led to complications and frustrations for customers. And that's why they kind of did away with that concept. I don't recall the seasonality rate. That is an interesting idea. And that's worth exploring. And one other thing on the CPI thing, I would recommend that even though you have the study every 2 years, to do the CPI every year, and maybe have in your contract agreement with your consultant for a modest hourly rate to do a confirmation of your calculation based upon anticipated increases in the next year's budget. You can get it done. It's a lot easier to get a $2 increase than a $4 increase every 2 years. Just smoother.
Question about that. So if the CPI increase happens to make it like $2.46 or something like that, like with the change, if we did a CPI increase, are you recommending that maybe we round up if there's?
You always round. It's the parking rate is to, you need even dollars.
Right.
Yeah. And you're not relying upon CPI-U, Ontario, or Riverside. You just be doing your own calculation based upon finance's knowledge of where contracts are going for your employee bargaining groups, et cetera. You can say, we anticipate an approximate increase of a budget of X amount, justifying the higher increase just for the incremental year, knowing that when you get to the study, the more formal study, it is just over 2 years, you're going to get better numbers. But you buy in from the consultant on the staff's calculations, and you just do it. It prevents spikes in rate increases over chunks of time.
Okay, good feedback. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Go ahead. It seems like we're being very conservative. I would think that 24 should be 25, but obviously I would agree with the 24 based on what the consultants say and staff says. But 24 is very reasonable, just based on Long Beach is 25. And I don't think anyone would complain about $1 there. But that $1 is probably impactful to their.
So what's the temperature? Do you want to propose a higher rate at this time?
And I will say that when Frasta had made the assessment, they had stated that a higher rate. They actually stated $26. So when they did their analysis, they were saying that we should actually be imposing a $26 daily rate rather than a $24.
I just want to reiterate from my perspective, we have a finite resource and we should price the lots according to making the best use of that finite resource, which we can't change. We can't build new parking spots overnight. And it's going to take us probably a decade to build more parking spots, is what it seems like from the master plan. So we need to use pricing to use the resource efficiently.
Victoria, did they, and building on what we're talking about here, because we do have that finite resource, when they looked at the elasticity of that, did they take into account, were they looking at the $24 mark or the $26 mark? Because that they did a deeper dive on the financials with this piece, which was interesting to see, right? What's the substitute going to be? Those who feel like it's too expensive, right? So Where did they start with that?
So they did the $24. That was like, yes, but they still did look at what it could be and what they think, they recommend that it would be, the $26 would have been the better daily rate.
I'm in favor of, I like the Kevin idea, winter and summer. You move it up to 25 now instead of 24. Let's start in October, we can be on winter rate. 25, and then we can always come back and say, now let's look about a summer rate, if we want to do it later, summer.
It sounds like there's some operational considerations though with that, based on what you both say.
It could be a little, yes. We could potentially change it. I think it would be better for us to either, we could, do an analysis on what we think the off rate could be. Bring that back to the commission for vote. And then when we do have, when we do implement it, because we're going to take it to city council, we would take it to council saying that we're implementing both these two rates, right? We would have the off-season, season rates. And it would apply across the board though. It would be difficult to change the rates for A, B, C, and D lots. Because like Jeremy mentioned, we're not there yet. We are going through a request for proposal right now. If we wanted to do a quick implementation, this would be the fastest way. If we're okay with waiting a little while, and it could take some time, and I don't have maybe 6 months to a year, let's just throw, the time frame out there, for us to get a new, parking revenue control system in place, that could be more adjustable to changing the rates with fluctuation. That could be an option, but then we run into the situation where we have to take it to city council, or we would then be asking city council to give the airport the control that, we are in charge of our parking rates fluctuating with the demand that's coming in and out throughout the time of year.
You gotta have the technology in place to do that. So it's gonna take some time.
Correct.
Very, very quick question. This, summer rate, are you talking more than 25 or less than 25?
I think you, maybe even less, I think you take it to the point where you're, in the winter, someone can find a parking spot if they're willing to pay for it. And in the summer, that we price it basically according to what will bring the airport the most revenue for the entire parking lot, because you're not using up the capacity, so you adjust it to your point, is elasticity of demands, making sure that we're not causing people to go on flights to other airports or overly move to other alternatives like Uber and taxi, and they start raising their rates as well. So we have to sort of balance that. It could be that the summer rate has to be lower than the current rates.
And the rates are.
That might be more optimal thing though, because we have more people park. And we earn more revenue overall. I would do some prices.
We do it with hotels, and, it's, we get people.
Airlines do it with seats.
But again, it's operations.
Right, it's all kind of like we could, with the technology that's not there, go with the two seasonal thing, 24, which is the low recommended, 26, which is the high recommended, just make 26 high season, 24 low season. Very simple.
And before you hit, let's say it's 26. Before you hit 26, like where are you at, like ballpark, 4 hours, 6 hours, so people are there for a couple hours, it's not that much, right?
I think majority is the 45 to 50% is the hourly parking, so 2 to 3 hours.
And what would that be?
What do you mean?
Ballpark, what do you charge now, 2 or 3 hours?
So the hourly rate is $8 an hour.
All right, say it's a set 24 after 3 hours. And your point is, let's go for 26, let's just take the revenue now.
And yeah, I think 26 is not high personally. And for the winter at least. For the summer, 26 might be too high.
Yeah, and we can revisit that, all right? I know there's 25, 26 in the floor here. Do you have a problem going to 26?
No?
Ken, what do you think?
I'd like, all this is very interesting, but $26 keeps up with inflation. And I would like to make a motion that we establish a $26 rate across the board and leave it at that. And when we get new technology, we can look at congestion pricing or pricing based on how far you walk. But right now, let's keep it simple and just charge 26. That's just basic inflation.
Got a second?
We need public comments first.
Any public comments?
Is there anybody in the room that wishes to make a public comment or on Zoom that wishes to make a public comment? No public comment.
All right, thank you for that. Should we take a vote?
Oh, so motion first.
It was Ken.
Wise. Perfect.
$26 for long-term rate.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, let's go vote. Commissioners Banks,
No, yes.
Berryman,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Caldwell,
Yes.
Corcoran,
Yes.
Evansteiner.
Yes.
Feltman. Feltman. Is Feltman still in the room? Let's see. No, it looks like. Oh, and Fong,
Yes.
Hedrick. Hedrick,
Yes. Yes.
Keel, Martin,
Yes.
McDermott. Yes. Pye,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Thank you.
The measure passes in 26. Now,
Thank you.
another request, with even more money coming in from parking, can we get Apple Pay? All on the table, we're gonna get Apple Pay. All right, please.
You can put a pin in for later. I know you mentioned something about a valet study, and it's something that, I personally take advantage of at Long Beach. When you're just racing to get to your flight, before you're lucky with somebody, they take care of it, it's fantastic. I don't know that we have that capability at this point, but is that something we could potentially look into? Because I think that might be a nice revenue driver for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately, it only really works once you have the parking facility.
I know Long Beach is sort of on the side, and that was maybe just kind of,
Yeah.
that would have really,
Yeah.
but again, I know we were kind of comparing ourselves to some degree.
And they got kind of smaller.
They do, yeah.
We're gonna add it to the parking study though. So, don't forget that idea, because we go to Ryan's team again, we should mention that as an option. And you're right, I think we do need a facility to make that work. But, all right. I know we're running late. This is not unusual for those, this is unusual for those who are new. We just had a boatload of stuff to go. So I'm gonna ask staff if we just, please move.
Actually, I put the financials inside of your packet. If you're okay with that, if you have no questions, then we can move on to the next one. Yeah.
What I'll do is, I promise we'll do the full on sometime, get back to it, but I really want, there's some other important stuff on it.
Yeah, and Commissioner Corcoran, if you don't mind, at that next meeting, I do want to go over grant assurances and go into the financials a lot more in depth since we have so many new commissioners. So I think that would be more appropriate since we'll also have a close of the fiscal year by then. So I'll be able to give more accurate numbers on our fiscal year 24. So I think that would be best to wait till September as well. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Before we move on, do we have any public comments on Zoom or in the room? No public comments.
All right, 90 Days of Noise Committee, I'll give you a report from our meeting today. We meet periodically. There were a couple complaints. They were done, two with military jets, one just a regular commercial airline. But other than that, no other significant noise issues. And for those of you who participated and listened to the issue over Enterprise, the fans that were driving our neighbors crazy over there, no news is good news. So we're thrilled that we think that that's going to resolve, and we tell those neighbors. And that's the update from the Noise Committee. Any questions? Any public questions?
On Zoom or in the room? No public questions.
Jeremy, concessions.
Well, in the essence of time, I think there's a schedule in your packet. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I do have some photos that I can share, but it's really up to you.
My only question is, the Movie County Canteen is now moved into March.
That's correct.
It seems like every meeting
As an estimate.
we jump.
It's an estimated, right? Because we can't get to the Movie County Canteen until the end, right? Because we're using the current location of that for the construction in and out of the Bono, up and down the elevator and the laydown yard. So that is the last piece that has to be constructed as we pull out of the Bono, finishing the other spaces, and that's why it's at the end.
Are we confident this is it?
And right now, that's an estimate, because we're still, remember, we just finished the renderings, right, and approving the renderings, so we still have to get into design, then we have to go through the whole permitting process with this. So it's gonna take some time, so that's an estimate.
Okay, okay, just every meeting it jumps a quarter, I don't understand it, but I hear you, okay, fine. Cactus is probably gonna open in August, we're excited about that. Our September meeting is going to be a special strategic planning, but maybe after that, it'll be an all-day session. We can all go to Cactus and Clouds and celebrate, because we really want to show off what we've built, and it's the first thing that I think we're gonna see that's gonna get people really excited,
Is
so.
that gonna be on Measure J money?
That'll be good.
And we do have a lot of new commissioners, maybe we do in September, we do a quick roll through the renderings of what's coming.
Yeah, that's nice. No, we're gonna use parking money for that, but that's great. All right, smoking ordinance, now.
Do we have any questions?
Public comment?
Public comments in Zoom or in the room? No public comment.
All right, let's move on to the smoking ordinance update.
This one's for me. Yeah, this one's for me since Harry's out. So we've been working on developing an ordinance controlling smoking at the airport. I think we presented it to the commission earlier this year. We've moved forward with the development of ordinance. I don't necessarily know when it's going to go in front of city council, but we've made some edits to the provisions related to the airport that haven't been touched since 1987. So the way that the new scheme is going to be set up is that smoking is not permitted at the airport except for specifically designated areas. So it's just outside public areas designated by signage. With the way that it's set up, we don't have to go through the ordinance process with the 2 readings to change the locations. The airport would have the ability to change the locations when it wants to. And I think the way I understand it, staff is proposing to have an initial area for the public, or one area for the public, and then one area for all the back room staff and employees that are working at the airport as well. And that's pretty much it. So it'll be going forward to city council pretty soon, but just a lot of flexibility to the airport to control where smoking's permitted. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but it's a pretty simple one.
Questions? Questions on Zoom? Questions from the public? And what's the anticipated time they'll take this to city council?
The ordinance is done, so whenever we want to get it on, we probably could get it on the next meeting. It depends on if we hit those publishing deadlines for the ordinance in particular, but it can go on pretty quickly.
All good? Great. Okay, we'll move on. We're not having an airport capital improvement update because Harry's not here, is that correct?
That's correct. We'll provide an update into the September meeting.
We'll provide an update in that and also the executive report because he's out. We won't be presenting that to you, but we will have a full report in September. Now, commissioners' request reports. This is an opportunity for you, if you want to put something on future agendas, you want to make comments about anything else that's outside of the agenda of this, just have any comment or any requests for future meetings. Anybody want to comment or make requests? Okay, I have one just to give you a heads up. We were made aware that the contract between the Arts Commission and the Art Museum had been terminated. The thing hadn't been updated in years. We're not sure why that happened. The implication is that whatever art that belongs to the museum can be taken out of the airport. We're not sure why that happened. And so we're asking lots of questions about that. And hopefully at our next meeting, we'll provide an update. Victoria and I are working on this. The other thing that we'll do at that point, we'll put it on the next agenda is we have some interesting ideas and trying to sort this out for the museum. How we could work with the museum above and beyond the work we're doing with the airport commission, do something else with them. You know, I've been thinking of that space downstairs. We've been talking about roving quarterly artists, local artists putting stuff up. It would be not a permanent thing that would have to go to city council, but something that would rotate. So by September, we're gonna have more to say about this. It's interesting. There's one issue with the museum has raised other opportunities that we can talk about. So it'll be on the September agenda. Now, speaking of September, Christina, you wanna chat about what the ask is?
Sure, so we are asking the commission to save the date. We're gonna send out an official email tomorrow to save the date for Thursday, September 12th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're gonna be holding a strategic business plan strategy session with our consultant Intervistas, a master plan workshop with Mead and Hunt, and a project review with staff. So it's gonna be all day long. Again, that's Thursday, September 12th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we will send an email out and a calendar invite as well.
This is the second time we will hold a strategic planning meeting. The intent when we first did it was to get everybody up to the same spot in terms of the knowledge of what's happening here, the budget systems, everything else. This will be a little bit more complicated because there's an outside firm that's working on the long-term strategic plan at the airport. They want a chunk of our time to go through a series of exercises to fuel that process. We want to give the staff a chance to give an overview of each one of their departments, get a sense of what the priorities are. And then we want to carve out time for what we think our priorities are as well. Is this public or not?
Yes, it is absolutely public meeting.
Okay, so it's a public meeting. So we're working with all these players to try to nail down an agenda that's realistic and also an agenda to make sure that we have enough time to sort through some of our own priorities. So I'm going to be working with staff on that. And if it's all possible, hold on to that date. It's really our once a year we all get a chance to kind of get smart about what's happening here, especially for those that are new to the commission. You'll really appreciate the opportunity to catch up on other things. The other thing is the Mead and Hunt folks running the long-term planning piece. They'll have a chunk of this. We'll probably hear more about what they promised us tonight. So that'll come out in September as well. So we'll hold that date and we'll get back to with the agenda so you know what the expectations are. We'll do our best to carve out time for us to talk about what we think is important. I think that's it. Oh, I have one more thing to say. Anything else from you guys? Are we good? Go ahead.
With the receive and file, just to heads up everybody, with the airport commission meeting being moved up a week and the airline activity report due on the 10th of each month, staff was not able to provide an airline activity report for June in the agenda packet. And the airline activity report for June, July, and August were provided in the September agenda packets. So
great. Okay, with nothing else on our agenda, I just one other thing to ask. At the back of your packet, we always put the very last page. Who's on what subject? And this is just the existing playing on the sub pages now. Here's an ask. For those of you who are, for all of us, whether you're new or not, take a look at this chart and send Christina a list of what your priorities would be in terms of which subcommittees you would like to join. Christina's going to summarize it. Todd and I will go through it. Some of you who are on existing ad hoc committees will probably stay on, but tell us what your priorities would be, where you want to spend time. Marketing obviously does all the marketing stuff, the budget. thing goes deep into the numbers and helps us to see trends in numbers. Operations is has a large agenda, looking at everything around, everything from the art to how we operate this organization. The ad hoc ones for the commission, for the concessions, the ad hoc for long-term planning, other ones that are just specialized around concessions and long-term planning. Noise, everybody wants to get in the noise committee, so please join that. Don't hesitate to join us in the noise committee. But take a look at these committees and just send us your top 3, send it to Christina, and then when we huddle in September, Todd and I will present kind of where we think everybody's talent is needed. And at the end of that meeting, we'll thumbs on the table, everybody will have their committee assignments.
So Commissioner Corbin, for my clarification, are we planning on restructuring altogether, or are we just trying to fill in the vacancy?
I would ask people for this, there's so many new folks, give us your top 3. And those of you existing, if you want to shift, you want to stay where you are, that's fine, give us your top 3. And let Todd and I go through this. What's exciting about, I said, everybody in this room, but some of the new folks all have different skill sets that may complement different things. And I have some people who have said, I'm done with budget, I want to go someplace else. So tell us what you think, get it to Christina, and by September, we'll sort it out, and hopefully issue your top 2 preferences. Fair enough? Okay. Final thoughts, thank you again for your support of all the work you do. Thank you, staff. Appreciate your vote of confidence for me and for Todd. As you see just tonight, this is an unusual meeting, a lot longer we have, but we got a lot of work to do, and we're really making a difference. So thank you for your support. Have a great summer. We'll see everybody in September.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
Fine, fine.